Free Period is a podcast of First Baptist Watauga Student Ministry. For more information about First Baptist Watauga, you can check us out at fbcwatauga.org. Hello and welcome to Free Period, the weekly break you want to take. I'm your host, Kevin Skinner, the Associate Pastor and Student Pastor here at First Baptist Watauga.
And I'm Nathan McKendry, your Young Adult Minister and Assistant Student Minister, also here at First Baptist Watauga. And today we're going to be answering the question, what is your favorite childhood memory?
But before we get to that, this week I'm going to give Nathan another word or phrase from the 90s to see if he knows what it means. And my guess is, based on history, you're going to know what it means. You seem to be doing pretty well with this.
Pretty confident.
All right, so today's phrase is, let's bounce.
Ooh, let's bounce. So usually when I hear that, it means, or when I have heard that in the past, I don't hear that anymore, but usually it means like, let's get out of here, or let's get the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah, let's go.
Boom.
So, yeah.
We're going to lunch. Let's bounce.
Let's bounce. Yep. So, I mean, yeah, it can be used in a more quick manner, like let's get the heck out of Dodge, or just in general, yeah, time for lunch, let's bounce, let's go. So, yeah.
I'm like 4 for 4.
I know. You're doing really well. But, again, not surprising because these phrases have been around for quite a while, and you probably grew up hearing some of them. So,
yeah. And my boss occasionally still says some of them.
Well, there you go.
Right. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our question for the day then. What is your favorite childhood memory?
All right, but before we jump right into answering that question, let's first start by talking about some of our earliest memories that we have from childhood. Maybe they're not necessarily the favorite memories, but what are some of the first things that you can remember?
Interesting question. Okay, well, I think the earliest memory that I can recall, details are a little fuzzy, so I don't know how old I was, but it had to have been real young because we moved into our house in 2002, maybe, or maybe even before that. I pretty young. I would have been 4 if it was 2002, but I'm talking about a memory that took place in our old house, which I hardly remember anything about.
Okay.
But basically, I was sick some evening, and I walked out of my bedroom, and all the lights in the hall were on, and all the lights in the front room were on. And instead of making my way to the bathroom, I made my way towards the kitchen. Now, you walk into the den, and then you could turn left and head towards one side of the room, which would be my parents' bedroom door, and the other side, which would be the kitchen. And I was throwing up every few steps. And so I would walk a few steps, throw up, walk a few steps, throw up as I made my way down the hall into the den. And my thought process was, I've got to get to the kitchen floor because it's tile and it'll be easier to clean up.
Right.
I don't know why that's what my goal was. A smarter kid.
I wish my dog would do that.
Yeah, don't you wish? Yeah. Well, I'm at least going to try to make it to the tile.
Right.
Nope. Or the bathroom. As a kid, I probably should have just gone for the toilet. But
right.
Yeah, and it wasn't even because I think I had to make the decision: am I going to go wake my parents, or am I going to get to the tile? And I chose tile, and I'd never even made it there because my dad, I was sitting there on the couch, and I didn't see him as I walked in, and basically started walking across the room in front of him as I started to throw up. And so
right.
he's kind of watching me do this thing. He's like, what are you doing? Comes and stops me, and I don't remember anything else after that, so I guess I got better.
All right.
That was my earliest memory.
Hopefully no one's listening to this at lunchtime while they're eating.
I didn't give any graphic details.
I know, I'm not.
I didn't tell you what I was throwing up. I don't remember that part.
Well, that's good.
That is good.
Yeah. So for me, I remember quite a bit from when I was younger. I mean, I remember a lot from preschool days. I mean, like I shared in an earlier podcast, I remember being in the nursery at church, and this had to be early on because my dad was pastor of this church when I was very, 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 very young. I mean, I'm talking 3 or younger. So, and I remember opening up the Play-Doh container and eating that Play-Doh. I mean, I remember that. And I remember going to Hanna-Barbera Land with my family. There's a picture that we have But I remember more than just this picture. Like, I remember seeing the Smurfs, people in costumes dressed like the Smurfs, up and dancing. I feel like maybe my dad put me on his shoulders so that I could see over the crowd, but that memory may not be quite accurate. But I remember seeing these things dance on the stage, and then I remember walking with my dad as we were leaving the park. And it was not a water park, but there was like this giant fountain. And this is a picture that I've posted before. But I remember holding his hand and saying that I wanted to go and run in the water. And my dad told me I couldn't. And I got loose from him and I went and ran in the water. And so the picture of me and my dad is my dad actually reprimanding me because I had run away from him and gotten drenched on the way back to the car. In all of my clothes. So those are some of those younger memories. But I also remember days in like preschool. I remember being dropped off by my parents, and every day, literally every day, I cried when my parents dropped me off. And I remember what I was feeling at that time. There was this fear inside of me that my parents were dropping me off and they weren't going to come back. And so as I would see them leaving, and I remember this is one specific time that I remember my parents trying to sneak away. So in our preschool class, we had this, it was blue and it had a lid on it, but when you took the lid off, it had soapy water in it. And I'm hoping that they replace this water on a daily basis. But it was basically, there were some things probably to teach life skills. So they had a cardboard box filled with clothes, like adult clothes that you could play dress up in. You could dress. And then they had this blue tub thing with legs, and you take the lid off. It had soapy water, and you could wash dishes in it. And so I was standing there washing dishes, and I think I was trying to show my parents that I was washing these dishes. And then I looked, and I saw my parents were already all the way down the hallway walking out the door of the building. And I remember I just started crying, but again, crying for me was an everyday thing when I got dropped off at that school. So when I was going into kindergarten, now I do not remember this conversation, but my mom tells me that I had this. But when I was going into kindergarten, my mom said, "You're going to love kindergarten." I said, remember, I hated preschool. So I don't remember saying that, but I do remember hating preschool. And really
a lot
it all
of
had
memories
to do,
here.
Yeah, it had a lot to do with being separated. Like I said, I've got a lot of childhood memories.
No kidding. You just hit me with like 3 or 4.
I do.
I asked for one.
I do. So, all right. So those are some of our early childhood memories. What is your favorite childhood memory?
Okay. Hard to pick, so I'll just not think too much about it and pick. One of the first things that comes to my mind is like holidays, because we used to love holidays, so Christmas was a great, awesome holiday. My parents would kind of go all out for it. And so there was one particular Christmas where we got these like tents, like these little toy, nothing you'd take outside, but these little toy plastic little tent things that you could set up that are, really small, but it fit me because I was young enough. And so we got those for Christmas, and I don't know if we spent the night in them. I thought at some point we did. We spent the night on the floor in our sleeping bags or something in these tents. Or we put them in our rooms or something of the like. But I remember one morning soon after, Mom had made biscuits and cut them up and put cinnamon and sugar on them and then brought it to us. And so we got to eat these cinnamon sugary biscuits inside these tents. And so we love those tents. Consistently, we would ask for anytime they put the tents up, we'd occasionally be, I want to play with our tents again when we remember them. And so we'd ask them to get back down and set them up for us. And yeah, they were fun. I love those tents. It's probably one of my favorite memories.
Awesome. So for me, I would say this is a memory that I have shared before, in fact, in a sermon. But when I was in second grade, for Christmas, my sister and I received a Nintendo Classic NES for Christmas.
Classic.
And this was something that she and I had been wanting. We had some neighbor friends that had a Nintendo, and we'd go over and play the Nintendo with them on the weekends. And so we wanted a Nintendo of our own. And so I don't really remember opening the present, but I remember how excited I was getting the Nintendo. And
is this why we have a Nintendo up in the game room now?
Probably.
Wow.
So
truth comes out.
I remember getting that Nintendo and being so excited. I ran outside into the driveway and shouted, "We got a Nintendo for Christmas!" with my arms up in the air, right?
It's good to tell your neighbors.
Yeah, and
Come rob us next.
Someone down the street shouted, "Shut up!" It was totally like a classic movie type scene,
like from the 80s. Yeah.
So it totally that
Wow.
really happened. But yes, my dad was like, "Stop! Do not shout
Right.
that. We don't
Tell
want to get
people.
robbed." And incidentally, we did get robbed. Not too long after that.
Oh my gosh.
The Nintendo was not taken.
Oh, that's funny.
But someone broke into our house through my parents' bedroom window, which was at the very back of the house. Someone broke in and they stole a suitcase. They stole some jewelry, and my dad had cufflinks and tie tacks and stuff that they took.
They stole a suitcase, but they left it. Were you like hugging the Nintendo? Would it have been too difficult to pry it from your hands, or?
Well, we were not at home when it happened. We were
Oh,
at school when it happened. It happened during
easy
the day.
bait.
And they also stole our VCR, which the joke was on them because the VCR did not work.
Ha!
They really did not take. I mean, my dad was upset about, my mom's jewelry and his cufflinks and stuff being taken. But other than that, they really didn't take too much of value. And then they just left the Nintendo totally.
Your favorite memory turned a little dark there.
Well, getting robbed was not my favorite memory. That definitely has to be one of the worst memories, actually, because we were scared and we moved from that house very soon after that. But
You've got like memories wrapped up in each other. You
Yes.
can't say one without like three.
but getting the Nintendo for Christmas, that definitely has to be one of the best memories. And playing that Nintendo for years with my sister, by myself, just a lot of great memories are wrapped up into that.
Awesome.
So before we end, though, any other memories from your childhood? Good memories stand out. Honorable mentions. I shared quite a bit.
Honorable mentions. I have a few. So one would be my cousins. You remember them? The Comstocks. You've met them yet. To name drop yet again.
Yeah, of course.
Camp in Cooper. We would have so much fun anytime they'd come over because the three of us, me, Camp and Cooper, and occasionally when we'd get my other cousin, Drew, they'd get the four of us together. And we'd have an even number, and we could really, we had Nerf guns and lightsabers and anytime, or as we got older, video games. And so anytime I was able to hang out with my cousins, it was a good time. Those are a lot of my favorite childhood memories were when either my one or two or three of my cousins would come over and we'd play and hang out for a while or watch movies, or if I went over there. And so there was one, in fact, I think me and just Drew at one point, when I was getting older and into middle school now, and I got to go over to his house, which they don't live in that house anymore. They've since moved to Decatur. But it was him and I, and we stayed up all night playing video games. And it was nowadays when I look back on thinking about doing something like that, it sounds like a horrible idea. But back then, it was exciting, the thrill of being awake at 3 a.m. and seeing the clock on a number that you've never seen before. That says 3 a.m. We're still awake. The sun is coming up. We're watching it.
Right.
I say we're watching it. We're noticing that the room is getting lighter as we're playing video games.
Sure.
Yeah, we took one particular video game and played it just start to finish that night.
Wow.
I was rather proud of us.
Yeah.
So those are some of my favorites when I was hanging out with my cousins. What about you?
Awesome. So
Any more 50 honorable mentions?
Yeah, well, I'll just, in general, my family, we took a lot of trips when I was growing up, summer trips, because my parents were school teachers. My dad pastored for about 10 years of his life. Then he became a school teacher. And so
Nice.
in the summers, we traveled to France, England. We went to Florida. We went to Colorado. One year we drove from South Texas all the way up to Canada to do just some missions work as a family. And so just looking back at all of those different family vacations we had, those are some really great memories.
Nice.
The bonding time with the family. And so, I look back at a lot of those as very, very fond memories. So
Noticing the trend in family.
yeah. So what about you guys? Tell us in the comments below some of your favorite memories or earliest childhood memories. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to, especially the earlier ones, I think.
Yeah.
I really want to hear, especially because they're students. And so, in theory, they've got, I don't know, more access to those younger memories. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd love to
absolutely.
hear.
All right.
Find out.
So that's it for this week's episode of Free Period. Join us again next week as we answer the question, what is something about God or Christianity that you have a hard time believing?
Wow, that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast, and I'd love to meet you in person. If you're a student between 7th and 12th grade, you can join us on Wednesday nights for midweek at First Baptist Watauga. You can also join us on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m. for growth groups and 10:50 a.m. for worship.